When you hear the term isolation, you immediately think of the pandemic, but the reality is many Americans felt lonely and isolated well before that.
In fact, in May, the U.S. Surgeon General issued an advisory to draw attention to the lack of connection in our country, and about half of adults reported feeling lonely. Dr. Omar Ritchie with Elite DNA Behavioral Health is joining us for this Mental Health Monday. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
The first thing I think is I'm not at the teenage years yet, thankfully, but from what I remember being a teen and just talking to fellow moms, you know, it's hard to tell a difference. Teens, of course, like to spend time away from the family, lock themselves in the room when they're eating dinner. How do you tell the signs between when they're just being a teen and really when they're isolating themselves from everybody else?
So teens in particular are isolating from other peers or teens. So if you start seeing that they are not engaging with appropriate age, appropriate peers, you know that there's something going on. They have difficulty in sleep, difficulty in eating, perhaps even headaches or stomach aches. There's a whole list of presentations where a teen starts to become even more erratic in their emotions, not typical teen overreactions, but teens that are really very, very irritable, anxious, very doomed and gloom. They look at everything very negative, and they really don't have confidence.
And so how can isolation impact a child's success now and leading into the future as well?
Isolation impacts the child's development. Nutrition for our brains is really like oxygen and nutrition for our bodies. And so learning and getting stimulation is very, very important. In fact, there are studies that have shown that the prefrontal cortex of the brain is not developing when teens and children are spending too much time in isolation, which means that they're not learning in that area of learning, decision making, how to differentiate between self-regulation in an environment when it's stressful. So these areas of the brain that are impacted in isolation really do not get corrected with 1 or 2 years of catch up as we would academically. They really need more and more time and sometimes professional help. So it's very, very important that these teens or children that are low in academic success or they have difficulty in self-esteem, they start to have depression, anxiety now. These are individuals that maybe long-term may have other health issues such as dementia, stroke, cardiovascular disease. All these have been associated with isolation and loneliness.
Wow, really has a large impact then. I think the biggest thing is you hear that and we all want to ask ourselves, whether we're a caregiver or working with kids, how can we help support them now and stop that?
Sure, I think that parents being aware that the adversity, the stress, is really something that we all have to learn how to role model resiliency. Parents have to be resilient, and in doing so, they role model to their children how to deal with stress. So that's very important. We role model for our children as parents, and we also become aware that children may need to have a safe place where the questions can be asked. How do you feel? How are you doing? In very general terms, and very slowly allow your child to feel comfortable to talk about their feelings. Sometimes we overlook that, thinking they're not going to talk to me as a parent, they'll talk to a peer, but in reality, if you open the door, they will eventually respond.
Absolutely. Dr. Omar Ritchie, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And if you want more resources, Kids Minds Matter, we have the bottom of the screen is right there for you.